What's the latest from where you are?
We have just had the results in from the first 2,000 voting stations. There are 10,000 altogether, which have counted up all of their votes. 69% for Fillon, 30% for Alain Juppé. So clearly Fillon is coming out on top again. But I must stress this is not necessarily representative of how the total overall vote will look for the whole of France. It's only 2,000 out of the 10,000 voting stations which have finished counting their votes. But Juppé has got a lot of catching up to do. Of course, he hoped that the left-wing voters would come out again and mobilise for him, as they did last week, to keep Sarkozy out of the race. But it looks like they may not have done that, and that Fillon has banked on the support from Sarkozy's supporters, and it seems to have worked out for him. I mean, Sarkozy said that Fillon's mentality, economically and socially, of course, as his former prime minister, was more in line with his, and so Sarkozy persuaded and tried to convince his voters to go and vote for Fillon, and it seems to have done the trick. But we're still waiting to hear the final results. For now, we just have the results of those first 2,000 polling stations.
And Claire, we're hearing that turnout is up this Sunday compared to the first round vote last Sunday. What more can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. Now, the latest turnout figures that actually they come from 5 p.m. this evening, so 2 hours before the polling stations close. And usually, actually, in those last 2 hours, there's a surge of people coming in to vote. 4.5% higher than last week. Earlier on in the day, the turnout was looking at more like 10% higher, but that sort of dropped down to 4.5%. Probably because a lot of people voted earlier today. There were big queues at the end of the day last year, so people came out in the morning and got their vote done as early as possible to avoid the queues. Turnout is crucial, of course, but it depends really who turns out. Is it the more right-wing voters who are clearly going to go more for François Fillon, or is it the more moderate centre, perhaps left-wing voters who are going to more likely vote for Alain Juppé and his more moderate platform? But yes, turnout is high, and the Républicains party, their first primary, has certainly been a success. Far more people have voted than they expected.
But Claire, voters today were being asked to pay €2 to cast their ballot. Has that put any people off?
It doesn't look like it, actually, Thomas. It looks like this primary contest, the first for the Républicains party, has been a financial success, if anything else. €2, everyone had to pay €2 last week in the first round, and again for the second round today. And the party, well, the €2 was designed to cover the running costs of the contest. But actually, the party's managed to make €7.5 million in surplus, so they've covered the running costs and made a profit. All of that money will go to whoever wins the contest tonight for their campaign for the presidential election next year. So certainly this primary, €2 for everyone, doesn't seem to have put many people off. It didn't even put off some left-wing voters who voted last week to keep Sarkozy out. So it's an interesting one. The Républicains party have done themselves a financial favour, I think, this time.